back to another episode of Sloppy Saturdays, and today we are getting into our conference previews. We are going over our Big Ten contenders preview. Now, we're not going to go over every single team in the Big Ten. If you guys would like my opinion on other teams in the Big Ten that aren't featured in this video, please comment below. I'll give you my opinion. Last year, we went over every team in every power conference in the country, and I feel like it didn't go too well as far as viewership. I feel like there are certain teams that everybody wants to hear about. So we are going over a lengthy amount of teams in the Big Ten, and we are separating it in tiers. We are going over teams that I think are a little bit of a long shot to make the college football playoffs, but I think are possible. Then we're talking about teams that have the ceiling of making a college football playoffs, but probably won't win a game once they get there. And then we were talking about true national championship contenders in the Big Ten. Let's go over all of it. First off, like I said, we're going to go over our long shot teams to make the college football playoffs. First team that I think has a ton of talent is actually the Washington Huskies. Now, everybody knows a couple of years back, Washington Huskies were in the national championship. They had boatloads of talent. Michael Penix Jr. was slinging all over the place. They had a great receiving corps. Obviously, last year, Kalen DeBoer does leave and goes to Alabama. They bring in Jeff Fish, who I actually think is a really good college football coach. That's why I actually do believe in this Washington Husky team. I didn't think he did as bad with the amount of turnover he had and the amount of time to recoup like he did last year. And another thing as well, when you're looking at teams with a ton of turnover like this, you're really looking in year 2 for them to take this step up. It's not going to be the year right after the turnover. It's going to be the next year, and that's what I really like about this Washington team. Now, this Washington team, like I said, has a ton of talent. When you look at quarterback, running back, wide receiver trio, this team, I think, has one of the most talented trios in the country. When you look at Demond Williams, yeah, there's going to be a lot of question marks. This is his first time starting. But what he could do athletically and his arm strength, this guy is ultra talented. And I think if he comes into college football and is able to settle in right away, this team should have very high hopes. Denzel Boston, I think, is a really good receiver as well. I think Denzel Boston is super talented. He had over 800 yards last year. Again, another guy that could play in the slot, play on the outside, can do it all, super explosive. I think he has a pathway of being one of the most talented wide receivers in the country as well. Then you get into Jonah Coleman, too. Jonah Coleman was a guy with over 1,000 yards, 10-plus touchdowns last year. Jonah Coleman is going to be really good as well in another year in this Washington Huskies offense. I think that trio on offense is really good. I think the 2 linemen they added are going to be immediate starters when you talk about Carver Willis and Josiah Hatchett, 2 guys that should really upgrade this offensive line with the remaining starters coming in the other 3 spots of this offensive line. They bring in Amari Evans as well. Again, the Penn State receiver. I don't know how good he's going to be. Maybe in a lesser role, he could be really good. Again, you're talking about a guy last year on Penn State receiving corps that was kind of weak, but he's going to have less of a role as Denzel Boston and Jonah Coleman are going to be 2 elite options in this offense. So I really like the offense. I think the defense is pretty solid as well. I really like the transfers they brought in. When you look at Dacario Davis, this is really a guy that we had mocked in the first round last year. A really good corner. And they also bring in Ugalele as well. And they remain with a couple of starters. They do have a couple of transfers as well. I think the defense should be solid too. Like the whole thing with this Washington team is if it hits their upside, which is, again, it's going to be hard. You're looking at a first-time starting quarterback in Demond Williams. But like I said, a guy that's as talented as almost anybody in the country. Jonah Coleman, Denzel Boston, ultra talented. The offensive line should be good. I expect the defense should be good as well. It's just if everybody reaches their absolute height in the Big Ten, which again is a long shot. It is going to be tough, but I think it's going to be one of those teams outside of like true national championship contenders that can beat anybody. When we look at their schedule is kind of tough in the Big Ten. This is where the problem is going to be, where I think it's going to be a long shot. Like, I think this team is super talented. They play Colorado State week 1. I expect them to win that. They play UC Davis. Expect them to blow them out. They play Washington State. I expect them to win that game too. Then they play Ohio State. Again, I don't think they're going to be able to compete with Ohio State just yet. They play Maryland. I expect them to be Maryland. I expect them to be Rutgers. Then they play Michigan in the Big House. They play Michigan and Illinois back-to-back weeks, these next 2 weeks that I'm talking about. And that's where they're going to really have to prove what level they are on in the Big Ten, because they have the talent to beat a team like Michigan and a team like Illinois. Yes, do I think Michigan and Illinois are a step better than them? Do I think they're a little more cohesive than them at this point? Yes, I do. But I think Washington does have the talent to beat them. So it depends how those games shake out. Then they play Wisconsin. I expect them to win. They play Purdue. I expect them to win. They play UCLA. I do expect them to win as well. And then they play Oregon, where I expect another loss. So again, you're facing Ohio State, you're facing Michigan, you're facing Illinois, and you're facing Oregon. But if you handle the game you're supposed to handle, and you come up in an upset against an Illinois or a Michigan, where I think the playing field is not that far off, there's a team maybe, possibly, you could see in the college football playoffs. Like I said, they're ultra talented. If Demon Williams comes in and could really get himself settled in early with the receiving talent they have, with the running back that they have, and a solid defense, and a coach I like, again, it's a long shot. That's why I put it in the long shots here. But there is a pathway for this Washington team to be very successful this season. And again, they could be a team with 4 losses that is just looking outside the college football playoffs that could also just have a really good season. Now we're getting into our next team. We're getting into the USC Trojans. Now, if you guys want to hear more about the USC Trojans, if you guys are a USC Trojan fan, we made an in-depth video down below. But I'm going to talk about USC pretty quick, why I believe USC does have a long shot making the college football playoffs. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. You guys saw them out of video. I am not high on USC at all. This is one of the years I'm actually pretty low on USC. When you look at the talent Lincoln Riley has had throughout the years, the last 5-10 years, the quarterbacks he has had, like, out of any time for him to be in the hot seat, I think this is actually one of the worst times. I think he found his coordinator a little too late in DeAnton Lynn, because everybody's giving Lincoln Riley flack of just being an offensive coordinator, which, again, he really is just an offensive mind, but he's an elite offensive mind at that. One of the most elite offensive minds in all of football, college, NFL. I absolutely love what he can do on the offensive side of the ball. But now the questions are asking, after an underwhelming tenure so far at USC, like, is he just an offensive mind? Did they promote him to head coach too fast? And the hot seat is getting pretty hot. Now, again, like I said, I liked other Lincoln Riley teams better. That's why I'm not that high on this USC team, but they do have talent. And like I said, they do have Lincoln Riley as a head coach. So Jada Maeva is their quarterback. Again, like I said, with the history of Lincoln Riley quarterbacks, it isn't the quarterback I'm the most high on at all. Obviously, he's a transfer. We've seen him start at the end of last year. We've seen him start fully in another conference. Again, he has the physical ability to really do anything on a football field, but is that going to translate? I have not been that impressed so far. The running back room for Lincoln Riley is my biggest question. Like, we know a Lincoln Riley-led offense that is very successful needs a good running back room, and he hasn't had a good running back room in about 3 years, and I don't think it's getting any better with Waymon Jordan and Eli Sanders, 2 transfers. Again, Eli Sanders coming out of a small school, does have production. Waymon Jordan doesn't really have much production. Again, a running back room that I'm not that high on in the Big Ten. The receivers is really where it's at for this team. I think for receivers, Jacoby Lane, Mekhi Lemon, I mean, they have the ceiling of anybody. When you look at Jacoby Lane, you're looking at 12 touchdowns last year. Again, highly, highly productive. And then Mekhi Lemon as well, one of the most explosive players in college football. I don't think their stats have really met the absolute production they could do. Like, they could take off, and that's why I think this offense does have the talent to do so. Giving Lincoln Riley 2 guys that have the ceiling to be top 10 receivers, like, again, this offense can be very explosive if everything goes well. I really like the 3 transfers they added on the offensive line as well. I think the offensive line should be solid. So again, a solid offensive line with the receivers that they have. There is upside for this team. Now, the defense is basically all coming back from last year outside of 3 transfers that I do like as well. The defense did take a huge improvement last year, but again, it was the movement of quarterbacks. Miller Morris mid to late season, really things just completely unfolding. Again, a new look for USC, but again, their schedule is tough. They play Missouri State week 1, expect them to destroy them. They play Georgia Southern. They should destroy them as well. USC versus Purdue, I think they're going to beat Purdue as well. Michigan State, USC, that's going to be a tougher game than people expect. Like, if you want to talk a little bit more about other teams in the Big Ten, I think Michigan State is going to take a step up from last year. I do expect USC to win that game. USC versus Illinois, I expect them to lose that game. USC versus Michigan, I expect them to lose that game as well. USC versus Notre Dame, I definitely expect them to lose that game too. This is why I think the schedule is super tough for USC. Like, a USC team I'm not that high on. Lincoln Riley on the hot seat. And we just looked at 3 weeks where they're probably going to be underdogs in all 3 weeks against Illinois, Michigan, and Notre Dame. Like, that's a tough 3 weeks. Then you play Nebraska again, which is going to be no slack as well. You play Northwestern. You should blow them out. You play Iowa. Might be a tough game with Iowa's defense always being good. You play Oregon, which I expect them to lose to, and then UCLA, USC could always be a tough game, but I expect USC to win that. But again, you're looking at Oregon, you're looking at Notre Dame, you're looking at Michigan, you're looking at Illinois. 4 games where they could possibly be underdogs. And you're looking at tough games like Michigan State, Nebraska. Like there's other tough games too as well. Like again, it's a long shot. I put them in because the talent that they have at receiver with Lincoln Riley, a great offensive mind on a hot seat. Maybe it could happen, but again, I'm not believing in this USC team. I did throw them in though. Next up, we have Indiana. Now we are getting into our next tier of teams that can make the college football playoffs, but I think are not winning a game in the college football playoffs, basically. So let's get into Indiana. Now, Indiana last year, they were like kind of like a Cinderella story last year. When you look at Indiana, like, sorry, I'm just pulling something up. But yeah, when we look at Indiana last year, they were kind of like a Cinderella story. Curt Cignetti was arguably the best coach in college football last year. But Indiana, as well as Illinois, that's also going to be in this tier. Like, the problem is with these type of teams, it's like, yeah, you could beat everybody on your schedule you're supposed to beat, and you could take advantage of a Big Ten schedule. But when we see you guys play the big dogs, you have no chance. We saw Indiana play Ohio State. They had no chance in that game. We saw them play Notre Dame in a college football playoff game. They were out at just as quick as they got in. Like, again, I think it's going to be a very similar thing for Indiana. And I think Indiana could possibly take a step back this year. A lot of people love Fernando Mendoza. Like, he has the 5th best odds on some sports books for being the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft. Like, I am not that high on him. A guy that had 3,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, 68% completion percentage. Like, Fernando Mendoza was able to show that he could throw it all over the field. But again, I'm not high on him. I don't think his season was that impressive. Same thing with Luke Altmaier. Like, we're going with Illinois and Indiana basically in the same bracket, talking them back. Like, I think these guys could be top 15 quarterbacks, top 20 quarterbacks. I don't see these guys being like absolute game players, game changers, quarterbacks to really compete in the college football playoffs, get you a win. I don't see that at all. Again, I don't really like the running back room for this team at all. I think Elijah Sarrett is a really good receiver for Indiana, obviously as a transfer, as a senior. 957 yards last year, 8 touchdowns. Like, that's a guy that I think they could really rely on. Omar Cooper, another guy with college football experience, 594 yards, 7 touchdowns. Like, I think the receiving core is pretty good. I think the offensive line is good. The running back room, again, I think is a little shaky for them. And then I think the defense is going to be good as well. The defense has a lot of returning starters, 8 returning starters, and you have 4 transfer heads as well. My thing with Indiana, like I said, is Indiana going to be able to beat everybody they should be on the schedule under Curt Cignetti, a great coach? Yeah. Did they make a great move from Curtis Rourke to Fernando Mendoza in the transfer portal? Yeah, you're getting a top 15, top 20 quarterback. But again, this is a team that's going to be, a back end top 15 to top 20 team. They're going to beat who they should be on the schedule, and they're going to lose to the contenders. Let's get into it. When you look at them, they play ODU the first week. They're going to destroy them. They play Kennesaw State. They're going to destroy them. They're going to play Indiana State. They're going to destroy them as well. Like, you're looking at the first 3 weeks playing cupcakes. Then they play Illinois. This is going to be as even as a matchup as you could get. 2 teams, in my opinion, that are identical when it comes to tier-wise. That's a toss-up game. They'll probably beat Iowa. Then they play Oregon. They'll lose to Oregon because they're just not in that bracket. Then they play Michigan State, a team that they should beat and they probably will beat. Then they play UCLA, a team they should beat and they probably will beat. Same thing with Maryland. Then they play Penn State at Penn State. They have no shot in hell. They'll be gone in that game by halftime. Then they play Wisconsin that they should beat and Purdue they should beat. So again, you're talking about 3 games that are potential losses and then a schedule where they should beat every single opponent. This is a team that could easily make the college football playoffs the same way they did last year. But again, they're not going to contend with the big dogs in the college football playoffs. They're going to be one of the first teams out. Next up, we have Michigan. Michigan comes in. Now, Michigan has a very similar team, in my opinion, to last year. The only difference in this team is you have a way more talented quarterback in Bryce Underwood. But again, how quick is Bryce Underwood going to get settled at Michigan? I don't know. I think the biggest thing with this Michigan offense is going to be Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall. I think 2 guys that are ultra talented. I talked about Justice Haynes in my running back, top 10 running back. If you want to go back to that, I think he's going to be a top 10 running back. I think he's going to be a game changer. I think he went in the complete right situation from Alabama to Michigan. He wasn't going to be a starter at Alabama. He's ultra talented. Michigan, we've seen how they've been developing running backs over the last 5 years. I think it's a premier situation, especially with Bryce Underwood as well. Like, Bryce Underwood is going to need time to get ready. There's going to be a heavy RPO game. I think Justin Haynes is going to be really good. I think the offensive line is going to be really good. Everybody returning on this offensive line, I think that's key. And then the wide receiver room, again, you're really going to need somebody to step up between Donovan McCulley, Frederick Moore, Samaj Morgan. Somebody's going to have to step up. I don't know who it's going to be because none of them have that much production. Again, you had an offense last year where you did have Colston Loveland in it, who was a top 10 NFL draft pick. So, again, somebody's going to step up on this Michigan offense for them to really be able to contend and make a college football playoffs. The defense is going to be phenomenal. Michigan's defense is always really good. TJ Guy, Derek Moore should be absolute leaders on this defense. I think TJ Metcalf was a really good transfer along with Trey Williams. And again, they're returning 9 of 11 guys that are going to be starters. Michigan's defense is going to be really good. Like, I think Michigan's defense is going to be really good. And again, I think they have a more talented quarterback. I think really, again, whatever Bryce Underwood's floor is, it's going to be way better than what they had last year. It just depends, like, is this team going to be ready right away? And their first 4 weeks, they played 2 pretty tough matchups. And the first week they play New Mexico, they're going to blow them out by 30+. That's a good game for me, and I'm very happy that Michigan doesn't come in and play a contender right away, because if you play a contender right away with a true freshman quarterback, that could be very tough as your first game, just going through the motions. He could go through it to New Mexico. Then they play Oklahoma, an SEC out-of-conference matchup at Oklahoma. I think that's going to be a super tough game for them. I think Michigan is actually going to lose that game. Then they play Central Michigan. They're going to blow them out. They play Nebraska. I think that's going to be a one-score, ultra-competitive game that could go either way, especially because it's early in the season. I expect them to be Wisconsin. We just talked about Michigan, USC again. I like Michigan in that game. I really do. I think by that point, you're looking at like week 6, week 7. Again, I like Michigan in that game. Against Washington, this is what we're talking about. For this game against Washington, it's going to depend where Demon Williams is at. It's going to depend where Bryce Underwood is at. 2 first-time starters. That should be a very interesting game. They play Michigan State. Expect them to win that. They play Purdue. Expect them to win that. Play Northwestern. I expect them to win that. Play Maryland. I expect them to win that. They play Ohio State. I don't expect them to win that, even though how successful they've been against Ohio State these last, 5 years. But again, I think Ohio State is way more talented. But again, they always have a shot in that game. So when you're looking at their tough matchups, you have Oklahoma, you have Nebraska, you have USC, you have Washington, and you have Ohio State. You have 5 tough matchups. They win 2 of those 5 and take care of everybody's supposed to take care of. They're in the college football playoffs, which I think is very possible. Again, very similar to like what we said about Washington. When you have a first-time starter at quarterback, you don't really know what to expect. Again, Bryce Underwood could take the league by storm as a true freshman. We have seen it before. Or, he could really go through some growing pains as well, which we have also seen before. So, again, Michigan is a team I do kind of like to make the college football playoffs. Like, if I were to predict either way, I kind of want to predict them to make the college football playoffs. But, again, it depends where they come out of some of their tough matchups. Then we get into Illinois. Illinois is another team where, again, I'm in the same group as Indiana. Like, I'm not ultra high on this team at all. I'm not ultra high on Luke Altmaier as other people are. People like him as a top 10 quarterback. I'm not there yet. I'm really not. I think he could be a top 15, top 20 quarterback. Same thing as Fernando Mendoza. Again, I think the offensive line is going to be really, really good. I think the offensive line is going to be solid. I think their running back room can piece things together with people with experience such as Aiden Loggery and Caden Fegan. I think it's going to be a running back by committee room. I need that running back room to be good with this offensive line for them to be successful. The receivers, again, I don't think the receivers really have that much experience. You're going to need somebody in this receiver room to step up. Hudson Clement is the guy with the most experience. If you look at 700-plus yards, 5 touchdowns, he could produce for them. I think he's a really good route runner, primarily going to play in the slot. Then you look at Colin Dixon, Malik Easley. Somebody's going to have to step up for sure. The defense, I expect the defense to be good like last year. And we're going to get into the schedule as well. Like, the schedule is the same exact thing I have been preaching for Indiana. They're going to beat the people they should beat on their schedule. But again, when it comes to contenders, are they going to win? I think their schedule is very, very light, honestly. They play Western Illinois, expect them to win that game. They play Duke. Duke got a lot better, but expect them to win that game. They play Western Michigan, expect them to win that game. Illinois, Indiana, again, it's going to be tough. They are away. 2 teams on an even playing field pretty much. I like Illinois still a little better than Indiana. I would take them in that game. Illinois, USC, I would take them in that game. Illinois, Purdue, I expect them to win that. Ohio State, Illinois, I don't expect them to win that at all. Like I said, very similar to Indiana last year against Ohio State. I think that's where you're going to see a true tier break. They play Washington. That's going to be a tougher game, but they should be the favorite in that game. They play Rutgers. I expect them to win. They play Maryland. Expect them to win that. Wisconsin, Northwestern. Again, this schedule is pretty easy. When you look at tough matchups, I guess you would go Indiana, USC, Ohio State, Washington. Again, there's really only one game you can market the schedule with Ohio State as a loss. Illinois is a team with a very, very high floor. I think they're going to make the college football playoffs for sure. But again, they're not going to be a true contender in that college football playoffs. I think they're really going to be one of the first teams out. Then we look at the team of probably the highest floor in college football. We're looking at the Oregon Ducks. Now, when you look at the Oregon Ducks last year, they were a team that was number one almost the whole entire season. Oregon was a team that a lot of people thought they were going to win a national championship. I personally was one of those people. They beat Ohio State the first round, the first time against them, and then they lost them in the college football playoffs, completely unprepared, got blown out. This year, I think, is a little bit of a transition year, but again, they are the number 7th ranked team in the country. I think they do have a pathway to a national championship if everything were to work out. But again, it is going to be tough. Like I said, last year was, I think, one of their most talented teams in a while when you talk about experience, and they do have a lot of turnover. Now, the biggest thing, you look at Dante Moore. How good is Dante Moore going to be? Dante Moore is going to be one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the country, and he comes in with a really good running back room with Mekhi Hughes and with Noah Winnington. Again, I think those two guys in the running back room, I think Mekhi Hughes is going to be a top 3 to 4 running back in college football. I think he's a guy very similar we talked about with other transfer portal guys in previous years. He's a guy in an outgrew situation, and he's going to absolutely be a star with an elite offensive line that I think the transfers they added on the offensive line, Alan Harkey, Emmanuel Pregnant, Isaiah World, I think they killed it on the offensive line. I think the running back room is going to be really good. I think the RPO game is going to be super strong for this Oregon team. Now, my biggest question is Dante Moore as a passer. Again, we saw him at UCLA. It was not a good scene. And then they had the biggest loss they could possibly have in Evan Stewart being out for the whole entire season. You could argue he was the most talented player on this Oregon roster. But again, this Oregon roster does have people. When you look at Kyle Casper, again, maybe he could step up as a redshirt junior. Again, a guy that we haven't really seen much from. Gary Bryant Jr., maybe he could step up. A guy that's a little bit different, a bigger type receiver in this offense. But the main person everybody wants to see is DeCorian Moore, top receiver in the country out of high school. A guy that reminds me a lot of Jackson Smith-Njigba, super explosive, should be playing out of the slot. If this guy steps up like we've seen receivers last year step up as true freshmen, this Oregon team is definitely going to be a national championship contender because that's the only thing their mission is a pass catcher. And I also think there's a chance Kenyon Sadiq really steps up as well and becomes one of the best tight ends in college football. He's an absolute mismatch, again, for defenses as well, for linebackers. So, again, I think this offense is really going to depend on who steps up at receiver. You get a good receiver room, people step up. DeCorian Moore becomes a top receiver in the country, top 10 receiver in the country. This is a team that could have national championship hopes. Again, you have DeCorian Moore go through growing pains, and you don't have that elite pass catcher. You could be limited on offense. On defense, I expect defense to be good. They added Dylan Dieneman and Taron Johnson, 2 guys in the secondary were probably 2 of the best secondary guys you could possibly get. They also had Bear Alexander that played at USC, played at Georgia, a guy with high upside that just hasn't been able to find his role. The rest of the defense pretty much stays packed with starters. Again, they had turnover from last year, but the rest of the starters are remaining. Played with Oregon last year. I think the defense should be really good on the damn line. I think the secondary should be phenomenal. I also think they should really be able to rush the pass rusher too, with Ungale, with Bear Alexander, with Talodi. Again, I expect this defense to be good. I expect the run game to be one of the best run games in the country. It's just who's going to step up as a pass catcher for this Oregon team. But again, their schedule is super light. They play Montana State, played Oklahoma State, play Northwestern, play Oregon State, all games that they should definitely win. They play Penn State at Penn State. I expect that to be a loss. I think Penn State is the best team in the country. That's a whiteout game for Penn State. I do expect them to lose that. Then they play Indiana. Again, a tougher matchup in the Big Ten, but I expect them to win that. They play Rutgers. They play Wisconsin. They play Iowa, Minnesota, USC, Washington. I think none of these teams are on the same tier as them. I see max 3 losses for this Oregon team and definitely a spot in the college football playoffs. Again, Like I said, the biggest question for this team, who's going to step up as a pass catcher? That's the biggest thing. Next up, we have Ohio State. Now, a lot of people I feel like are underrating Ohio State a little bit, which is crazy when you look at the national championship. Ohio State Buckeyes, like them being a top 3 team in the country, I do agree with it. I think they're super talented. Again, my biggest thing, I think Julian Sain has the talent and the receiving room around him to be a really good college football quarterback next year. I think he's going to be good. I don't think they're going to lose a beat when it gets to the middle of the season. Again, we saw Will Howard go through growing pains in the beginning of the season, and we saw him come on in the college football playoffs. I think Julian Sain is more talented, and I think this receiver room is phenomenal. When you look at Jeremiah Smith, obviously one of the best receivers we have ever seen. When you look at Cardinal Tate, another top 5 receiver in college football, 2 top 5 receivers in college football, I think they're going to be really good. Then you look at Brandon Inniss. I think Brandon Inniss is going to really come in as that next guy to step up for Ohio State. I think he's going to be good. I expect the offensive line to be good. The freshmen they added all run like 4.4s. They could be worked in on special teams and on certain drives. Then you look at the running back room. I think C.J. Donaldson is really going to step up. I think C.J. Donaldson could be good. You also have James Peoples as well. That's the biggest thing where I think the drop-off comes down. When you look at C.J. Donaldson at West Virginia, a guy with experience, a guy with double-digit touchdowns, but you looked at a running back room last year with Quinshawn Junkins and Travion Henderson, 2 second-round NFL running backs, 2 of the best running backs in the country. They just flat out don't have that this year. I think the defense is going to be really good as well. I think Sonny Styles is going to be really good. Caleb Downs, I think, is the best player in the country. I've talked about it time and time again. David Nkabusin coming back. He's going to be really good. Jackson Jr., like there's just a ton of talent on this defense. This Ohio State team is a true national championship contender. I do think they're going to lose at Texas week 1. Versus Texas week 1. It's at Ohio State. I think they're going to lose that game. But again, you're looking at Grambling State, going to kill them. Ohio, going to kill them. Washington, not on the same tier as them. Minnesota, Illinois, Wisconsin, all teams not on the same tier as them. They do play Penn State. Like, this is a little bit of a tough schedule because you got to play Penn State and Texas. I expect them to lose against Penn State, but again, that is at home. They could win it for sure. You look at Purdue, Ohio State, expect them to beat them. UCLA, expect them to beat them. Rutgers, obviously going to kill them. And then Michigan, I expect them to really kill them this year and come out with fire. Again, there's no way Ohio State doesn't make the college football playoffs, and they're definitely a true national championship contender. Again, it depends how good Julian Sain is. That really depends on like how high you are on Julian Sain. Again, could it be Lincoln Keenholz? It still hasn't been announced. I think Lincoln Keenholz is going to come on this team in red zone opportunities. He is a 3-sport athlete, but I don't think he's going to be a starter. Then we get into Penn State. This is going to be really quick. You have heard me talk about Penn State time and time again. Penn State, again, in my opinion, the best team in the entire country. I think Penn State is a team with the most experience in college football. I think this team has really set the blueprint on a team that's going to win the national championship. Like, they have really fixed up all their holes. They brought back a ton of returners that you would have never expected. I think they're going to win the national championship. Let's get right into it. Drew Aller, we've talked about time and time again. People love to hate Drew Aller. Drew Aller had a horrible receiving corps basically his whole entire tenure at Penn State. He's going to have his best receiving corps this year. Not only that, Drew Aller, a guy that's more athletically gifted than people think. He is able to bring some rushing upside when it is needed. His arm, his size, absolutely ridiculous. I think Drew Aller is going to have a monster year. I think he's the best quarterback in college football. And I think out of all the contenders, he is the only quarterback to go as far as he has in the college football playoffs. Again, Drew Aller, I think, is going to be phenomenal. The 2 running backs, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, 2 top 5 running backs in the country in the same running back room. 2 guys that are seniors that we would have never expected to be back at Penn State at this time last year, but they decided to stay with the pack, come back. This running back room is going to be the best in college football. So you're looking at the best backfield with the best quarterback and the 2 best running backs in college football. The receiver room I expect to be really good as well. Devontae Ross, Trevor Pena, they're going to be better as a duo than any other duo Penn State has in the last 2-3 years. They're going to be really good. Again, coming from 2 explosive offensive. Devontae Ross coming from a little bit of a lower school in Troy, but again, had over 8,000 yards, touchdowns everywhere. Trevor Pena came from Syracuse. He's going to be really good. That offense was super explosive last year. He's going to be in another explosive offense. They also bring in Kyron Hudson as well, a guy with a lot of upside. This wide receiver room is going to be way better than it's ever been, and you're going to see a different Drew Aller as the handcuffs are going to be off, and he's going to be able to really sling it. The offensive line comes back. The offensive line is going to be really good as well. The offensive line is going to be elite. Then when you get into defense, the defense is absolutely ridiculous. I expect Dennis Sutton to be one of the best edge rushers in the entirety of college football. He could be the best defensive player in college football by the end of the year. When you look at Shaquille Wheatley, I absolutely love him. He's going to be the leader of this secondary. They have a ton of talent as well on the rest of this defense. So experienced. They only have one transfer starter. The rest are 10 returning starters. The continuity is going to be there from the beginning. And again, all these players coming back, they have the most experience. I absolutely love them. Nevada, they're going to kill. FIU, they're going to kill. Villanova, they're going to kill. I honestly think they're going to beat Oregon by double digits. Like, I think Penn State is just going to be able to do more than Oregon. Like, that environment's going to be too much for Oregon. Dante Moore, as much as I do think they are a contender, I don't know if they're going to be ready for that game at that point in time. Penn State, UCLA, they're going to kill them. Northwestern, they're going to kill them. Iowa, they're going to kill them. They play Ohio State at Ohio State. This is James Franklin's moment to really prove that he could beat Ohio State. I think they're going to take that game for sure. They play Indiana. Think they're going to beat them. They play Michigan State. Think they're going to destroy them. They play Nebraska. Think they're going to destroy them as well. And then they play Rutgers at the end of the year. Again, it's going to be no contest. Penn State, is you guys know, is my best team in the country. My national championship prediction. They are absolutely loaded. We're at 30 minutes, a longer episode for us at Sloppy Saturdays, but we go over to Big Ten contenders. Drop down, who I left out in this Big Ten, who you think possibly has a pathway to make the college football playoffs. Again, this Big Ten does have some talent. Do not think they are the best conference in college football. I know it's been a debate. I personally do not think that. But again, like I said, drop down who you think is an underrated team in the Big Ten. We talked about other teams really making improvements. Like, I think Nebraska could have a pathway of making the college football playoffs. I didn't include them in this video. I think Michigan State's going to be a little better. We know Iowa's defense is always good. UCLA should be exciting with Nico Iamaleava. Like, again, there are some other exciting teams we didn't talk about. Drop down below your predictions on the Big Ten, and Sloppy Saturdays is